Oh, we're live.
And we are live. Perfect. That's how we start.
That's the praying mantis.
Super consistent.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight?
Wonderful. Yay.
Yeah.
Change my name.
You're going to change your name. Another brick in the wall. Awesome. So we've got Chris.
More.
All right. So we've got Chris back. We've got Becky, another brick in the wall. We've got Sean Speaks back with us this week. And we have got a guest with us today, one of my very dear friends, Brandy. Everybody say, hey, Brandy.
What's up, Brandy?
How's it going?
Awesome. So we are going to be talking some pretty legit stuff today, I think, right, guys? I think we're talking about Afghanistan, everything that's going on there. I don't know if you guys feel the same way I do, but I feel like we've got a ton of media overload going on with this over the last couple of weeks. Certainly there's a ton of events to support that media overload. But I guess one of the questions I have for the group here today, just to kick us off, is, I posted something in the group last week. It was actually a Fox News article. And there was a video, one of their commentators who essentially called that out and said, hey, so there's a lot going on in the world today. Certainly a lot of mistakes have been made in Afghanistan over the years, that now is not the time to be calling out one president. We've got mistakes that have happened over the past 4 presidencies that are leading up to what we're seeing take effect today. So I'll just kind of pause there and kind of see, what do you guys think? How are you guys feeling about this? What are your questions?
Yeah, so when I, just kind of off the top, when I sort of watch something like this go down, and I think about like projects that I have found myself involved in that are, infinitely small in comparison to the scope and scale of, an overseas war that's been going on for 20 years, right? How difficult is it even just at work to land the plane properly, when it comes to a project that involves 50 people? But when you've got something like this, it's absolutely massive and has been going on for so long. The likelihood that any exit would have gone smoothly to the degree that no media outlet would have found something to make news of is like 0%, right? It was guaranteed to have some kind of noise, because ending a war is miserable. It must be. I can't even imagine shutting everything down like that.
I have a very crazy question, but that's why I'm with y'all. Hope y'all can enlighten me. What changed now versus all the years before that necessitates or that says, hey, this is better now, let us leave? Like, what happened? Maybe I'm not a big news watcher. So what did I miss? Like, is there more peace over there? What did I miss? So I want to be enlightened. That's why I'm just going to ask a question, and then I'm going to zip it and let y'all enlighten me. What did I miss?
I have a thought, but I want to hear what everybody else says. But I'll answer the question with maybe another question. Have you ever been involved in a relationship that you knew was going nowhere good, but you just kept going and going and going, hoping that the investment would, for the love of God, pay off? And it just keeps draining and draining and draining and draining. And at some point in time, you have to make a choice.
Okay.
So I heard something, or I read something in a couple of different articles where there's the thought that we did what we went over there to do post 9/11, and that Trump said, hey, Elliot, or not Elliot, Travis, you are Elliot, but you're Travis today.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, welcome. So we're just talking, we got our conversation moving on Afghanistan and just talking about the question out there on, are we, is the media out there politicizing the events that are taking place? Are we placing blame too quickly on one side or another? Why did we keep going? Why did we pull out? Chris just made the reference of, have you ever been in a relationship that was really bad and toxic and you just kept going and going and going and going, even though you knew it wasn't going to go anywhere? So that's kind of where we're at. Becky, I saw you raising your hand.
I was just waving at Travis.
Oh. Cool. But yeah, I think, that's what I heard, Chris, was just, we went over there, we did what we were supposed to do. We took out ISIS members that we were looking for that were a party to 9/11, and it was time for us to leave.
Okay. That's what happened.
That's what I'm hearing, right? Do any of it? So we said on the last show, nobody trusts the government. So if nobody trusts the government, that's what we're hearing. But, I don't know.
What do we know?
Nothing. Oh, I don't know.
From beginning to end, what do the average American person know about Afghanistan? And what?
What'd you say, Brandy?
I said whatever the media told us.
Exactly.
All right. I got another question. What percent, how much do you trust American media to tell you the truth?
Yeah, everybody gives a thumbs down for that.
So
I would say this about that. I don't think I would say with the okay, I'm gonna polarize myself here. With the exception of Fox News, which I know, based on the things that they say, intentionally says things that they must know are not true for the purposes of delighting their audience. Aside from organizations like that, and there are those on the left too, I don't think news organizations are intentionally going out to lie. I don't think that that's the purpose. I think that they are all in the business of selling Verizon contracts and Ford F-150s with the commercials that air in between everything that they do. And so reporting sensationalism makes better TV than reporting regular old boring day-to-day stuff, right? Nobody watches C-SPAN because it's boring.
So you heard of the good son and the bad son?
Mm-hmm.
The bad son, he always gets in trouble, right? But the good son could be just better than the bad son at hiding what he does. So we look at the good son, which could be CNN, and say, well, we're going to trust them because they play on our emotions. They play the nice guy. Fox News, we don't trust them because their words hurt. We don't trust them because
why?
Because their words hurt. Like they may come out and say something that cut me as a black man or a woman as a woman or certain individuals. We hear what they tones and we may say, okay, that's a lie. And some of it may be a lie, but sometimes the tone will turn the truth into a lie.
I just keep thinking of Good Morning Vietnam. Like how all his stuff was just redacted and can't say this, can't say that. That's what I think of the media. Like there's a lot that they can say, but they're also, right wing, left wing. Oh, but so and so is our sponsor, so we can't say this kind of thing.
A friend of mine sent me a video this morning, and it was about. It came on. Anderson Cooper was saying that he couldn't believe people thought he was faking how deep the water was that he was standing in the flood. And then they showed Al Rucker with the water splashing on him. But then they started showing back when Matt Lauer was working, a news reporter was in a boat rowing in a canoe. And two men walked right past her and the water was almost ankle deep. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they asked her, Matt Lauer asked her, how did that happen? Is it a drop off right there where you at? And she started laughing, was like, well, you gonna walk or you gonna ride?
So the Anderson Cooper one, have you watched the whole clip?
No, I hadn't watched it.
You should. In that particular case, what they were because I'd seen that before as well, that criticism, which was, I don't think it was a criticism so much, it was just funny, that they were, trying to sensationalize something. But, in the spirit of trying to understand, that clip was, he was talking about the dangers of going into floodwaters and how you can't tell how deep something is. So when the clip starts, he's up shallow where his camera crew are, and it's like this much water. And then he goes around, and they knew where it was deeper, and also probably where Anderson Cooper, I can't even imagine the insurance policy that guy must have on him, right, to make sure that he doesn't die on air. But he wandered off into the deeper water to illustrate the point of how you can't really tell, but it can get deeper rather quickly. The problem with clips like that, and the problem with media broadly, and this is why I pick on Fox News, is you can take something and then you can reduce it down into a clip so that it serves whatever purpose, right? And I think that's why we have to just be cautious of all media that sells commercials in between. We just have to remember what we're watching or what we're listening to, right? We are listening to a commercial broadcast that is that its purpose is to draw and retain interest, right? Same with Facebook and Twitter. The algorithms are built to keep you there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you wouldn't stay on Facebook if they just showed you a bunch of stuff you didn't want to look at. So it's going to give you your echo chamber because you like your echo chamber. Everybody does. I like seeing stuff I like.
So let me ask this, because I know we like to go down rabbit holes, and I want to kind of circle us back with this conversation to where we started. We don't necessarily trust the government. We don't necessarily trust the media. If you're a Fox News watcher, you're trusting Fox more likely than you're trusting CNN, and vice versa, right? Like, these are all things I think we're all finding common ground on. And one of the questions that we've had in the last 12 minutes is, kind of how did we end up here, right? We know that Biden didn't make the decision to pull out of Afghanistan, right? He executed on the decision that was made by Trump to pull out of Afghanistan, right? So I wonder what it would look like if we were looking at Fox and CNN articles when Trump made that call versus the media reports that we're seeing now that the action has been taken, right? I mean, if Trump made the call and we know that Trump communicated with, negotiated with the Taliban in working towards that agreement. Fast forward to today, Biden he's got two choices. Right? He can abide by that agreement or he can break that agreement. And either way, is he in a good position? No, he's screwed, right? So now he's executing on the decision, and we've got people saying that he's got blood on his hands, which probably would have happened either way, right? Like, as much as we say we don't trust the media, does anybody here trust? I mean, especially, we all lived 9/11, right? Does anybody trust the government that was, from what we understand, housing terrorists that executed on an act against the country, right? Killed thousands of people. Like, if we can't trust our media, are we going to trust an agreement with those individuals?
Yeah.
No,
and
sure.
that they're going to hold true, say, okay, we're not going to cause any damage if you decide not to leave. Like, I mean.
Let me ask you a question. What if when Trump made that decision to pull out, what if he went over there and met or sent someone and met with him and seen that Afghanistan itself and its soldiers wasn't going to stand up if we left? Like, what if he seen in a meeting that we was there wasting time and we needed to get out of there? Because even if he made that decision, Afghanistan soldiers and president left the same day.
Some of them did, not all, right? Like,
but we've been training them for 20 years.
No, but not all. But a lot of the soldiers are still back there fighting, right? Like,
I don't know. I don't know.
They are. Like, I'm actually following a bunch of news outlets on Twitter. I've never gotten onto Twitter until recently, until the last couple of weeks. And I started picking news outlets that would provide me with information directly from Afghanistan, news reporters that are reporting out of there. And there are female news reporters that have chosen to stay in Afghanistan to actually show footage of what's really taking place there. I'm sure they won't be able to do that for long, unfortunately, but they are. I mean, some of them left, but not all of them left. So
who are they leaders? Who are leading them?
Who's leading any rebel or any? I'm not looking for the word alliance. Resistance. That's the word I'm looking for.
So
I mean,
the Afghan
the Taliban would be resistance, wouldn't it? And the government, the military, would be like.
I'm thinking of the resistance in the manner of how I think of and how the French were portrayed as the resistance during World War II, right? They were the good guys, right? They're trying to fight for their country back. And even though they weren't the resistance in the beginning, they became the resistance in trying to win the war that had overtaken their country. So when I speak of the resistance, that's how I'm speaking of it in regards to Afghanistan.
So say you're a professional CEO, and I own a company that was failing, right? It was going under, and I hired you because I had faith that you could bring us out of this. You could turn that company around and make it a profitable company, right? All right. Which I would consider that being Biden. Never mind what Trump did. You still have to get in and clean up the mess. You can't be, you know what I mean? Like, he's the president. So he has to clean it up. He has to get us out of there in a better fashion. He's still responsible, no matter what Trump did, because Trump didn't do it the same day that he left. He still had time. If he had to work all day, all night, like, he's still responsible.
He signed a contract that said that he knew that date was May 1st, if I understand correctly. That was after the switchover, right? So he knew that I'm thinking he's
you're talking Trump
intelligent man, regardless of whether or not we like him. I mean, the man made it to a presidency, right? Like, he's smart, and he's a businessman. He's smart enough to know, hey, if I don't win this thing, this isn't on my hands. I'm going to make an agreement that has a 50% chance of somebody else having to execute. In my mind, I agree with you. If you're a leader, you are accountable for whatever takes place. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do if somebody sets you up for failure.
So let's remember also
for individual. So the situation,
I'm not trying to take up for him. I was just speaking on. Go ahead.
No, I think they're good points for sure. Yeah.
There's something to consider there too. There's a couple of things. So the first is that Joe Biden, as president, took office on January 20th, right? So a May 1st agreement to pull out would have been, let's give him the rest of January just to find the White House bathroom, right? And figure February, March, April, three months, right? So 3 months, and then this thing is going to happen. I think it's. I don't lead military exercises, but I'm going to bet that 3 months being president probably does not have enough. There's not enough time there for one guy to have a ton of influence on whatever train wreck might have already been going on over there in the first place. So I think it's just, something to consider there that the ball was in motion. The other element to this too, which I think is interesting, Travis, I'm interested in your thoughts on this too, is when Trump did make the agreement, he made it with the Taliban, but the meeting didn't include the Afghan government. The people that ran away and that put their arms down, they weren't there at the agreement for what was going to happen next. And if that was the group that was supposed to take over, that seems odd that they weren't invited to the meetings. I mean, he invited the Taliban to Camp David. It's true.
Well, he canceled it before they got there.
He did cancel, but he invited them. There was a plan, right? And I did not know until recently that when they had those meetings that the Afghan leaders weren't included in that conversation, which seems odd to me.
Yeah. I also read that after that, or part of that conversation, because the conversation happened, right? The negotiation did exist. An agreement was made, a gentleman's agreement, if you will. But I also read that thousands more Afghans or Taliban detainees would be released, whereas only 1,000 American detainees would be released. There were other details in there. I need to go back. I have the article. I can post it in the chat for everybody, but there are other details in there. But long story short, it sounded like the Taliban were getting the good end of the stick here. It wasn't necessarily an equal agreement. And Trump also made a comment of if they don't stick to it, we're going to hit them with a force unlike nothing else. So aren't we just like we're going into an agreement with people that we don't trust? Like we really have no basis to trust them on. And they're likely going to break that. I'm likely not going to be in office. And I've committed to essentially going back to war and bringing all of our soldiers back to the same place we're saying we're going to get them out of.
I bet you Trump thought he was going to win. Like, I think he really, really thought he was going to win. And so he also did I'm going to talk to the people that I think most other politicians are afraid to talk to, with North Korea and then the Taliban. Like, he's like, I have that same mentality of, I can make you afraid of me, so I'm going to talk to you. But then, he didn't win. So now, all his talks are like, what happened? I don't know, but here you go, Biden.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
I want clarification. Just enlighten me. Okay, so we were, of course, we went over to Afghanistan. We've been over there for years. We're now pulling out. It seems like we're leaving the power to the Taliban, but not the Afghan government.
Yes.
Now I have a question. Just my thinking mind. What if that was happened in the United States? Like, how would that be? Like, another country comes over to us, right, and then empowers a resistance group over our government.
Yeah.
Help me there. Just help me. Help me.
But democracy. Everybody wants democracy, right? Whether they know they want it or not.
Okay, so I thought. Okay, never mind.
Go praying mantis.
There was so full disclosure, I don't know a whole lot about Afghanistan outside of like Travis, you were like, what does the average American person know? I would say I know that it's basically there's a civil war and the United States got involved to try to help empower the Afghanistan people. And is that not true? I don't know, Travis, you're like shaking.
I thought we went because of 9/11.
That's what I thought. It was 9/11.
It seemed like it turned, but yeah, I thought that too.
That was true. The initial reason that was told to us that we went into Afghanistan is because they were harboring Al Qaeda and we were going after Osama bin Laden and the whole thing after that. Yeah. That is true.
So then what? Okay.
But Becky,
I saw that like we spend a lot of money on training Afghan people to fight, and
right.
Obviously that didn't work, right?
Right.
Yeah,
we had two presidents before Trump.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But can we all agree that there's an element of civil war here, right, between the Taliban and the Afghan people?
There is. We lost their government, so they're
let me ask you this:
the land back.
Let me ask you this: take a regular Afghan citizen, a Taliban member, an ISIS member, and an ISIS K. I just Googled that, and they only had like 2 weeks of knowledge online for ISIS K. You stand all four of them beside each other. Could you look at them and tell the difference? By what they wear, by how they look, by how they talk, by how could you tell all four of them?
Maybe, yes.
Apart.
You can if you're a woman, if you're looking at a woman in each of those four environments.
Huh?
You can if you're looking at a woman in each of those four social environments. An Afghan woman, you see women walking the streets like over the last 20 years, and you can tell a visible difference between that and prior to that when they were under rule of the Taliban, right? And they basically had no rights. The men, the uniforms that the military are wearing, I'm sure that those would distinguish those individuals from the Afghan soldiers as well.
No, not Afghan soldiers.
Okay.
I'm saying a regular citizen, a Taliban member, an ISIS member, and an ISIS K. Not a soldier, not an Afghan soldier. Those 4 regular people walking down the street. I can't tell the difference. They all look like they dress like regular clothes. If they was American, they'll have polo, Azad, khakis, jeans. Like they all dress like. Only difference is some of them got guns and some of them don't.
How do you tell the difference between a right-wing Christian who's going to blow up an abortion clinic and me?
Right. Right. So now, take 5, take 6 American, take 6 Afghan people, right? Listen, take 6 Afghan citizens and put them on a podcast and ask them to talk about those people you just mentioned in America. They'll be like, how do you look at them and tell the difference? Until they open their mouth.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what do we know as an American citizen? What do we know about any of it? It's like we're in a maze. America has us in a maze that's inside of a maze, that's inside of a maze, that's inside of a maze. And us 6 here trying to figure it out.
The only thing I know is that you left a lot of weapons.
And you telling me I'm wrong, but we really, nobody actually knows anything unless we go up to Washington, D.C. and get behind them walls and listen.
So what do you, to that point, Elliot, what do you say to all of the videos that are being leaked by individuals who aren't necessarily a part of the media and they're going viral?
I mean,
and they're showing evidence of the violence and recounts of Taliban coming into homes and raping women already and killing people, and you can't have a Bible, erasing people saying that they're erasing Bible apps from their phones because they're.
I'm not saying that's not happening. I'm just saying I don't know who's actually just say
who's actually doing it.
Who's actually doing it.
Just because they're saying, and this is what I think I'm hearing you say, Elliot, is that just because they're saying the Taliban is doing it, how do we know it's not the Afghan people, or how do we know it's not the ISIS people? And it's like we really don't know who is doing what.
You know what? I have a question. So
not really.
The thing that I find is hard to understand is how is it that we could be there, the U.S. could be there training these, I don't know how many people to fight, giving them weapons, and how is it so difficult for them to overtake these groups that are significantly smaller than the U.S. Army and the Afghan Army?
Exactly.
That's what I don't understand.
You can be in the military.
Great question, Brandon. You
can be in the military and you get an order, right? You wake up, you got an order that you got to do. Like you got an order, you got a task you got to take on today, right? And you may leave, get suited up, and go out on your mission, and leave a package or park or a Humvee or set a bomb, and you may blow up a school full of kids. You don't even know who's in that building. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And then you come home to America, and you get back out here. Some of those homeless soldiers out there on the street is dealing with stuff like that. Like
go ahead. I was just talking with my kids about this the other day. It was my son was asking me about this Afghan thing, and he wanted to know, like, why is it so hard? Why are we not able to like get over on this, And I said, well, think about the revolution, right? So how did the British fight? They all stood in a line and they used like these traditional like rules of war. And what did we do? We hid in the forest We did not shoot the frontline soldiers. We shot the generals sitting up on the hill. And the British were like, "Bah, you can't." What? Right? Everybody freaked out. And we won the war with a tiny resistance against the greatest military the world had ever seen at that time, short of maybe like Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan, right? So how are these groups of people able to get one over on American soldiers? By doing exactly what you just said. If you want to set up a military command post, you set it up in the back end of a school. Yeah. So that if it gets blown up, it's not soldiers that are on the news, it's little kids. They changed the rules of the game. And they made it very, very, very difficult for us to pull that out.
Does the Geneva Convention even exist anymore?
It does if you honor it. It's an agreement.
Right. It's like a thief versus the homeowner.
Yeah, but is that just United Nations or that's everybody? Does the Taliban, does Afghan, does all those countries, Iran, do they follow the Geneva Convention?
They don't. The Geneva Convention was signed in Geneva by a group of countries after World War II, I believe. I could look up and see who's in it, but it was a group of countries that came together and said, these are the rules. And if we ever capture people, we're not going to torture them, that kind of stuff. Now, we can do that to our own people all day long. We just can't do it to other people.
Right.
It's important from a historical perspective, too. I think it's important to remember that literally, I mentioned Alexander the Great earlier. He attempted to invade Afghanistan. Genghis Khan attempted to invade Afghanistan. We watched the Russians, right, our great foe, attempt to do it. And to date, I don't think there has been any nation since literally 300 BC that has attempted to invade Afghanistan and had been successful doing it. Nobody.
There are many Middle Eastern countries that have been back and forth, and I don't know enough details, and over time, I'm sure I'll learn more details. But I mean, going back, I mean, you read, literally, I was in church last weekend and they were talking about Israel and the wars that were going on then, right? I mean, and it's still going on today. It's just, there's such a passion around certain things. I don't want to, I'm going to say it, right? There's certain people become so passionate about their religion. They take it so literally. And then it turns into these wars that are justified. The pastor that spoke at my church, and I'm not going to say what church it is, literally, I looked at Ray. I was like, are they telling us to do the same thing that we're hearing is jihad in other countries? Because he was literally talking about how it's okay to defend yourself and your God any way you have to in order to get rid of the evil in front of you. Those were his words.
See, that could be taken so badly.
So is what's going? You saying what's going on is based out of religion?
I think there's a large element of religion in one side for between the Civil War aspect that Becky brought up earlier. I think a lot of that has to do with religion and politics becoming a part of that religion. And then I think there's another piece of this that has to do with, I don't want to sound too crazy with any conspiracy theories before we get too far into this conversation, but I think there is definitely a power element that is political. And I think it extends beyond the United States of America and beyond Afghanistan and beyond the Taliban.
Okay, Chris, Great Britain, what you think about? Do they have anything to do with this?
Not recently. It's Russia does. So Russia invaded. Do you guys know that we funded Osama bin Laden when he was a freedom fighter against the Russians during the Russian-Afghan war? Who
funds America?
You do, baby. We do. Huh? We do. All of us taxpayers do. And we took when Russia, the big bad evil Russia, was invading Afghanistan. Because what happened was there was a power struggle in Afghanistan. There was a communist group that was attempting to take over that wasn't very popular. Russia signed a treaty with the Russians in 1978 or something like that, to attempt to bolster this whole communist thing. You know how Americans feel about communism. So we sent money and support and things like that to the freedom fighters, the Mujahideen and others that were fighting, which included Osama bin Laden. And then the whoopsie daisies, that didn't work out very good, and then we had to go back in and fight them ourselves. We should have just learned from the Russians.
Didn't we put Hitler? Didn't we support Hitler being put into position of power as well?
I don't know. That's a good question.
See, if we did, then that goes to what we started off with, was it doesn't start and end with Biden. It just keeps going back and back and back, where it just down spiral.
Yeah.
America has a long standing history of getting involved in geopolitical politics with the intention of making those countries do what we want them to do, so that we can be in better control of them. We've done it since
all
forever.
About the power.
Oh, I hate it.
It is.
So
I mean, think about Central America and how many of those countries did we install leaders? We've done it forever, right?
Yep.
What have we turned our back on?
Who did we turn our back on?
No, what if the American citizens just say we don't even care? We're gonna worry about us here, and we're gonna fix this. What's going on here?
Sure.
Just turn our back on, like, the politician. Y'all go ahead and do that. We're not gonna watch CNN. We're not gonna watch Fox News. We don't even want to, like, just do what you're doing, and we're gonna do us. We're gonna survive here in America.
We're all human, and people tend to want to be on the winning team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with you. I think we should do what you're saying, Travis. I think we should do it.
We don't know. We don't know anything.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So this happened in World War II. Remember, Germany invaded Poland in 1938, right? We didn't get involved in World War II until after Pearl Harbor in 1941. So Britain and the other soon-to-be later on allies in World War II in the late 30s in 1940 were getting their butts handed to them by the Germans and asking for our help. And we were like, nah. Roosevelt didn't want to get involved. The reason he didn't is exactly what you're saying. The American people were like, not our war. We just got done fighting the Great War. My grandma and grandpa lived through World War I. Screw those people. Let them deal with it themselves. And then they blew up Pearl Harbor, and all of a sudden America was like, America, let's go get them,
Thank you. Create chaos.
Yeah.
If you create chaos, then you have the people.
Sure. So Pearl Harbor and 9/11 were the same thing.
So now I'm not saying America, as far as the military, turn our backs. I'm talking about us. Like, I'm the type of person that if I got somebody that I can't trust them, I don't know when they're telling me the truth or telling me a lie. Like, I'm going to say, you know what, man? Do what you do. Go ahead and do it. But I'm going to stay on my yellow brick road. Okay? Now, if you hit the lottery, if you succeed, I'm your biggest fan. But I'm going to stick to my yellow brick road because I can't dilute my path with something I don't know. I'd rather just stay on my yellow brick road. Everybody got their own yellow brick road. You get what I'm saying?
Until you can't follow your yellow brick road because your employer or your government tells you have to get vaccinated in order to do anything and do.
I don't have that issue. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound like I don't care, but my yellow brick road, I am my employer. And then, I don't eat meat. So I go outside, eat some veggies or something. You get what I'm saying? So, if we,
So if we can't find you next week, we know you are completely off the grid.
and also, I'm not afraid. I'm not addicted to this world we in. I'm not afraid of dying. When I tell my family when I die, hey, I'm going to get some rest. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't waste my time with stuff that I don't know. If I feel a certain way, I'm going that direction. You get what I'm saying? If I fall, if I fail, it's because I chose to. Remember I said choices? Last time I said choices. as long as I chose to do it, I'm comfortable. But I can't trust the government. I can't trust the media. I don't know.
Yeah. So let me ask this question, since we're kind of breaching the whole World War II concept in line with Afghanistan here. And we talked about this on a prior show and how fast Hitler was able to advance given his methods of enabling his soldiers, right, with, you know, drugs and whatever else to get them moving. You know, Hitler was not a worldwide, he wasn't a worldwide power at that moment in time. And neither is the Taliban, right? But they're doing things in a tricky way that we all, not just the US, but anybody else, the Canadian soldiers have been over there too, right? I think Britain was also a part of our resistance efforts and support in Afghanistan, right? These three countries can't keep them at bay. And we're trying to get out, and they're storming us the same way that Hitler started storming and taking over so quickly. You know, is there a fear or a concern that if we are not able to get a handle of this, you know, whether it's the Americans or a coalition of multiple countries, that we're going to potentially face another world war similar to what's happened in the past? I mean, they're proving to be very effective at what they're doing.
Chris, who was the first country to make it to the moon?
That would be to make it to land on the moon, or to
land on the moon.
That's us. We're the only ones.
How did we get there? Why did we get?
Because of the Russians.
Where did we get the scientists from? Who scientists?
Oh, Germany. We got the rocket scientists from Germany after World War II.
And who was in control of Germany?
Werner von Braun was super German.
Who was in control of Germany at that time?
At the time, until he put a bullet in his head, Hitler was.
Okay, so why was we in Germany again?
Because they blew up Pearl Harbor.
Oh, okay.
Germany did
create chaos and what?
Sure. Right, yeah. So, here's the thing, right?
To the moon, or was it because they blew up Pearl Harbor?
Wait a minute. What? Say that back.
Come on,
say that again.
Break it down for me.
Are you getting that we went to Afghanistan for the oil instead of the?
I mean, remember I told you about the maze? Mm-hmm. Being inside of a maze. Sean, what you got to say?
I'm listening. I got nothing to say. I like where you're going though. Just keep talking.
So I have a question. Do you know why? Do you know why Germany even listened to Hitler in the first place? Like, what was the reason?
When I found out about the moon thing, I just stopped right there.
Wait a minute. Okay, we got to pause on this World War II thing and talk about the moon. What are you talking about? Tell me the moon thing. What are you talking about?
Huh?
What do you mean the moon thing? What are we talking about there?
No, when we brought up Hitler in Germany,
yeah,
and why we did this and why we did that, nobody mentioned the moon, landing on the moon.
Oh,
so now, like I told you, we in Afghanistan. We said because of a civil war and trying to give democracy to Afghanistan, but then we say no, it was because of weapons of mass destruction. You get it? And
so now we got to talk about George Bush. Yay! I love talking about this guy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, as American citizens,
you gotta speak up.
Okay, so let's talk about George Bush.
To say, man.
So we got George Bush Sr. going after Saddam, right? And he just wants Saddam so bad, and he doesn't get him, right? And then George Bush Jr. comes along, and he says, "Daddy, hold my beer." And he went and got that guy. Why did we invade Iraq? What did Iraq have to do with 9/11? Goose egg, nothing. We invaded. I swear, I have no proof of this. I think we invaded Iraq and went after what's his face? Who am I thinking of?
Saddam
Hussein. Yeah, because Junior wanted to give that guy's head to his daddy for a prize.
Okay, now let me help you out.
Conspiracy theory. There you go.
Let me help you out. The dollar.
The what?
The dollar bill.
Uh-huh.
Gaddafi Saddam, they wanted America to use their money to buy their resources.
Explain that. Like to do a money conversion? Help me understand what that means.
Yeah, they wanted they wanted America, the United Nations, to transfer their money into their money to buy their it was gonna kill a dollar. You get what I'm saying? The value of a dollar.
Who wanted that? I'm Googling
Gaddafi.
this.
He's dead too, right?
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Gaddafi, remember Gaddafi, Saddam, all of them dead now.
Yes, very much dead. You're talking the yes.
What do they have in common? Do your research.
God, I need to Google now.
Yeah, okay. So
Muammar
Gaddafi, he was killed in 2011.
Under Barack, right?
2011.
Barack said that was his biggest mistake.
We're going too fast, man. I can't keep up with. We've gone from World War II to.
Because we're in a maze. We are inside of a maze.
Gaddafi was a close ally of the Soviet Union, despite his country's membership in the non-aligned movement. Libya.
He wanted us to buy. He wanted us to convert our money over and buy the oil and the resources from them in their money.
Okay.
It would have bankrupted the dollar bill.
Well, that's why we don't listen to Gaddafi.
Well, I mean, okay. He's at the bargaining table. We want something that he got, so he brought his negotiation to the table.
Here we go. Dead. I found it. The gold dinar. Okay, boy, you come up with some good stuff, man. It takes me a hot second to figure out what the hell you're even talking about. So, in 2009, Colonel Gaddafi, the president of the African Union, suggested to the states of African continent to switch to a new currency independent of the American dollar, the gold dinar. The objective of this new currency was to divert oil revenues towards state-controlled funds rather than American banks. Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, so he was looking at this union of states that on the African continent, and he's thinking, all this stuff is being bought and sold with American dollars. It's going and being controlled by American banks. We don't want our stuff being controlled by American banks. It's like how the EU made the euro, right? We want to make a new currency and get the American dollar out of Africa. That was what he wanted to do.
And he's dead.
Oh, he's super dead.
Yeah. You get it?
Power.
Now, what I'm saying,
control.
Now, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is fact. I'm just saying about us being in a maze and they get us looking at the good son or the bad son, and the good son is taking advantage of everybody. Like, I don't know. So, I just don't know.
And so my thought was in the beginning, we wanted the resources, right? We wanted the oil, but we needed a reason to go. So we gave a reason for us to go and for the people to support us. I mean, Dick Cheney was literally, Halliburton is based out of my hometown, Lafayette, Louisiana, and he was the vice president, the biggest oil company in that area. And so here's a reason people now support us, and now we go and we don't leave for how long?
Right, and then we have we have people joining the military, quitting the NFL, joining the military. Everybody, I wanted to come home and get my gun when I seen the planes went into the building. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So we create the chaos, and we don't know. We don't know anything.
Right.
You just answered a question. Okay, so I'm going to walk us down a path. Right here's the rabbit trail. Who decides we go to war?
That's why I asked you, who funds America?
No, come on, play the game. This will be fun. Who decides we go to war? Who does? Everybody can play this game. Who decides? It ain't the president.
No.
Isn't it doesn't Congress?
No.
Yeah.
Congress has war powers. Congress has war powers. The president, obviously, we hope he's involved, but Congress has war powers. So, what motivates congressmen and women more than any other thing? And don't say money, because you got to be something in order to get congressional money. You got to be a congressperson. What do they want?
Re-election.
They want to get reelected. That's right. And you said a second ago, after 9/11, you wanted to go get your own gun.
Mhm.
What was the popular thing to do after 9/11? What would be the popular political position to hold after 9/11? Kill them all.
Yeah.
Until I
Right?
got home. And
So why did we go to war? Why did we go to war with them at all? Because bloodthirsty Americans want it, and that got a lot of politicians reelected.
But then you got to go back and say, well, and I'm not saying that they didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Who actually flew those planes? Because after that happened, drones came out.
The remote? Oh.
You get what? Right after 9/11, drones started popping up. So I'm not saying, I'm not saying that
we're going full on conspiracy here.
Yeah.
There are some very weird things about that day in terms of where they stood down normal patrols. They stood down. There was a lot of very weird things going on.
What's the fastest you drove a car before? The fastest you drove a car?
Maybe 140 miles an hour.
You know how narrow the highway get?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now I'm gonna practice on some crop dusters for 2 weeks. And I'm gonna take these planes running 300 miles an hour or better, 500.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm gonna hit this pencil right here, dead center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we? Yeah.
Dead center.
Well, they were off to the side a little, but yeah.
You get it. You get it. So what I don't know,
But we have them, right? We have the pictures of those guys like in the airports getting on the planes, right? We have them.
I mean, they got pictures in movies. They got pictures in movies every night.
So I suppose it's possible. So let's walk it for a second. Who would have? Are we saying that this is an internal job that we did this ourselves?
Create chaos.
Sure. Why?
To go to war. To do what?
I mean, it's exactly what Japan did to get us into the war, right? They created chaos for us, right? So somebody's got to create the chaos. I mean, somebody was certainly eliciting a response that day. Whether or not we go with conspiracy theory or not, somebody's creating the chaos, and there's some collaboration going on somewhere.
Yeah, I've always wondered why it took us this long to get out of Afghanistan after we got,
Saddam.
Yeah. Like, what was our purpose? I've got friends that were in the National Guard, and he was, he joined the National Guard because they told him, okay, the National Guard stays here and guards the nation when the Marines, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force go to war. But yet the National Guard was the first to go.
Yeah.
Now, we could have stayed because after we took the leader, it could have been chaos over there, and we didn't want to leave it in chaos.
We did. Look, I mean, part of what we did over there, we did some good things, right? We helped build schools. We helped reinstate the fact that women actually had some rights and could do things and live a free life to some extent, right? So, I mean, there are good things that we did do over there.
For 20
years. For 20 years while we had a military presence. It wasn't just going in and putting a new government in and saying, okay, well, we're here and we're going to stay. So I just want to make sure we're acknowledging that bit as well. Because our military that went over there, I mean, they all, they're sacrificing their safety and time with their families and so much more to do what you said, Travis, right? Like, I was ready to grab my gun, right? Like, they're all willingly going over there for this construct of freedom, and not just our freedom, but watching pictures on the news over the last couple of weeks of Marines holding babies and shielding them, right? And helping people, 800 and some odd people get onto planes, just ushering them on without any sort of even order or approval to do so. Like, we clearly care about the people that we're interacting with over there in that country.
I said I felt like grabbing my gun. There's a lot of soldiers right now that feel like grabbing their guns to commit suicide.
Yeah.
I have a friend that works at what's the military hospital?
The VA.
Bethesda up in Maryland.
Yeah, Bethesda.
Those soldiers are going crazy in them hospitals with no legs and no arms.
So I was doing some more research on this, on the decision to go to war in Afghanistan in the first place. The authorization to go to war was approved 98-0 in the Senate and 420-1 in the House. It's the most unified we've ever been as a nation, is wanting to go over there and blow people up. And I to the question of why did we stay there so long, I think it's a really hard question to answer. But one of the thoughts I have about that is it took us a while. If you think about from 2001 until some period before 2021, every bad guy in the movie was Middle Eastern, right? For a long time, right? In the 80s, it was every bad guy was a Russian. And then they switched over, and now every bad guy is someone from the Middle East. And we had all kinds of animosity towards people who are Middle Eastern, even in the United States, American citizens who just happen to be Muslim or whatever, right? And what I think we've all seen in the last maybe 10 years or so is the tide turning on, well, just because somebody's a Muslim doesn't mean they're a terrorist, right? We need to stop hating on people because they dress differently from us or whatever. That universal fear that was built into us in 2001 when those buildings went down has faded. What kept us in Afghanistan all those years was, for a long time, it took us a while to stop being afraid that they were going to come over and do it again. And now we're just to the other side of it. And I don't think that the public support is there because we have forgotten what it felt like on that day in 2001 to watch those buildings go down and the fear that it put in all of us.
Yeah. You said that's the most unified we've been as a nation. And I would agree. Obviously those in the political world were in that world of agreement. But I remember having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people and hearing both sides of, no, why are we going to go do what people just did to us? And I happened to be in a philosophy class. I was still in college when 9/11 happened, and that the conversation of what is terrorism came up in that class. And as we sat there and debated what our country was doing in response to 9/11, there was a ton of, no, we are doing exactly what just happened to us. So are we not like that? These are the conversations I remember hearing from people. So I would argue that the country wasn't necessarily unified. I think that we probably have always had people on two sides of the fence and a couple in the middle. But we were able to get, the House and the Senate, obviously, in agreement in that moment. But do we happen to know at that point in time, was that more Republican or more Democrat? Did we have an even keel on both sides?
Oh, like who held the House and the Senate in 2001?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question.
What was the percentage of Republican to Democrat?
2001.
No,
2001, not 11, right?
Yeah, 2001.
Sorry.
Yeah.
2001.
I always think of, the whole, just, it's a Bible verse, but, an angry word fuels another angry word. And I feel like the country right now has that mentality of, you can't poke me because I'm going to poke you harder. Mm-hmm. And then instead, in doing that, all you're doing is creating more tension and not relieving tension.
Yeah.
And I feel like, the United States is very powerful. If we didn't poke back all the time, we could probably do a better job of staying out of conflict than always having to be involved in conflict. If we just kept out of, you pushed me, I'm going to push you back. Except this time I'm going to knock you on your face.
Yeah.
It was Republican led by a hair. Republican led by a hair.
Okay.
I want to read something though.
And then
I was looking up what was Osama bin Laden's, what was the motive for attacking? What did they say? What did Osama bin Laden say was the reason for attacking us in the first place? And I'm reading this from Wikipedia, which we can go talk about conspiracy theory. I'm just reading what he wrote. He wrote a letter, and these are the words, from this letter. He explicitly stated that Al-Qaeda's motives for the attacks include Western support for attacking Muslims in Somalia, supporting Russian atrocities against Muslims in Chechnya, and supporting the Indian oppression against Muslims in Kashmir. and support for Israel and Lebanon and the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia. U.S. support of Israel and the sanctions against Iraq. So why did America get bombed by Al-Qaeda? What's the one reason? We got involved in all that other business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Coming back to what you, Travis, was a question you asked earlier. What would happen if we did nothing? Then a bunch of bad things would happen in other countries, and we would just have to
sit back and let it happen.
Just let it happen, which we did in the 1930s. After World War I, we called it the Great War, right? We were done.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Great War of humanity. We're out. And in the 1930s, there was all this unrest going on in Europe, and America was like, nah, not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Until Pearl
Now,
Harbor,
Trump,
changed their mind.
I remember Trump saying that they needed to pay us for what we do. Like, they need to make sure America need to get, what we worth. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean by that?
That Trump said we should get paid?
Our military, we're going to go in and help countries that don't like us. We're going to go in and help them out. But what do we get out of the deal other than humanity? Doing humanitarian.
Well, in all of those cases I just read, I don't think we fundamentally gave a crap about the people we were helping. We were trying to stop the people who were hurting them that we also didn't like. They had a common enemy that we didn't have, that we had.
Right. So in those countries, what are the natural resources for those countries? What are they like? What do they produce?
Yeah.
Do they have any type?
Yeah, it wasn't humanity. We were protecting our access to oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
or strategic locations.
Are they
or
oil
whatever.
countries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
Somalia's not. Chechnya, I don't know.
So what Somalia got going on over there? Diamonds?
I don't think that's a reason to invade. It might have just been strategic. I mean, that's why they bombed Pearl Harbor, right? It was a strategic island controlled by the United States. It was a little too close to Japan. Right. So sometimes we blow stuff up because we want control of the resources or control of the markets.
Right.
But sometimes we get involved in stuff because that guy's getting a little too close to that guy. I mean, that's Afghanistan's problem. They're landlocked, right? So they got countries all around them. That's why Poland was a problem, and why every country it goes to war in Europe has to go through Poland to get somewhere else. If you control Poland, you can get everywhere because they're in the middle.
Yeah.
But some of it's just accidents.
Yeah.
So one of the rabbit holes that I wanted to cover, well, I don't know how much of a rabbit hole it is. It's just, when they said Afghanistan was going to be the topic, I thought, well, I don't really know a whole lot about it. So I don't really know how much I can contribute. So I was just kind of like, the first kind of question that popped in my head, and I just kind of went down and did a little research, and I thought it was really interesting. And I'm not really sure 100% how I feel about it, but I wanted to pitch it out to you guys just to kind of see what you think about this. So I looked up who the Taliban are, and basically it's an extremist group that wanted to have the country run their way, right? Let's go follow Islamic law. So it's
Sharia
religion
law,
based, and it's extremist group based. And then so that's where I kept bringing it back to the whole Civil War thing. So then I started looking up how many U.S. soldiers have we lost in Afghanistan? And one of the numbers I found was like 1,300, I think, and that could be way wrong. That was just the first thing I Googled. And I thought that number was going to be much larger. So not that that's not a big number. I thought there was going to be way more American soldiers killed in that war. And then I got thinking, how many American soldiers died in our Civil War? Do you guys want to take a stab at how many died in the Civil War? Chris, you can't Google it. Just guess.
30,000.
Already did.
Yes.
30,000.
30,000. Katie, what's your guess?
I have no clue what the total population was at that point in time, so I feel like any guess I have is like it's worse than blindfold and throwing darts. So I'm gonna sit out on this one, but
That's what
I have no clue. Yeah, I'm gonna say it was a lot.
Jen?
Brandy.
I mean, Brandy. Sorry.
Just
Her
Don't cheat, Chris.
wife's name is Jen, though. Yeah.
Don't cheat, Chris.
I already did, so I'm not answering. The population, by the way,
I'm gonna
was
go in 100,000.
18. There was 18 million people in the United States at the time, if that gives you any context for your guesses.
How many people were in the military?
I don't. That's the only hint.
How many
I'm giving.
people fought? I'm gonna say 50% of the people who fought died.
Okay, so the total number was 750,000 deaths from the Civil War, and it does an analysis of. So, Katie, you'll love this. It was 2.5% of the population.
Really?
Pretty big number. So it said in today's numbers, it was like 7 million.
Wow.
So
How many did our medical team kill?
Our
Well, I was thinking about the injured.
but they have injuries because they're part of a civil war.
Are you gonna cut my leg off in the middle of this film?
It's a comorbidity, civil war.
That's, by the way, that's 504 people a day.
Yeah.
And then so I'll just throw the numbers out there unless you guys want to guess.
Mm-hmm.
How many Afghan citizens? So it's just saying Afghan citizens have died in the course of
20 years.
Civil War, whatever. We said
About the 20 years. In the 20 years.
Right.
Oh, it's got to be brutal.
Or okay, so yeah, 2009 is what this is.
So just prior to 2000 to, or no, 2009. That was 8 years after we entered, right?
100,000.
So since 2009 is what this is. Yeah.
I'm gonna say the number's low. I'm gonna go with a smaller percentage.
Great. 100,000.
Chris, did you want to guess or you Googled it already?
I Googled it too fast.
Okay.
Chris.
Every time you say something.
Travis, you're right.
Thrown away, Chris. Put your hands down.
111 civilians.
100.
Were injured.
Oh, yep.
111.
111,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, 1,000.
Okay. Yeah.
You knew it had to be.
How much do you think we have
I
spent?
read Chris' glasses.
Since 2002 has the U.S. spent on this war?
Oh gosh.
Trillions, huh?
2
Yeah.
trillion.
Oh, this number says 143 billion since 2002. So maybe it's the whole world.
Yeah.
But the Civil War, it was about 60 billion for current dollars.
So, can I ask a question? Switzerland, they don't really get involved in much, do they?
No, they're declared. That's why Germans would hang out there. They go to vacation there and stuff. They didn't care.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So, but did Germany try and take over Switzerland?
No, they just vacationed there.
Huh.
There's no. If you look at Switzerland, they're extremely difficult to invade. First of all, where they are in the world, look at them on a map. Yeah, they're really hard to invade. And there's no military strategic reason to do so. And since they're neutral, you can just go in there and have some cheese and chocolate and buy a watch, and nobody cares.
It's kind of like, have y'all watched the what is that reality show, like Big Brother?
Yeah,
something?
the one where they're on TV all the time,
and they're all in the houses.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that strategy. I've always said that the people who win are the ones who literally don't get involved in all these little cliques and just kind of like, I'm going to do my thing. Mm-hmm. And they're quiet. So nobody thinks that they're a threat until the end. And then they're like, oh, wait, where'd you come from? It's kind of like, if I don't go there, nobody knows I'm there.
They just follow their own yellow brick road.
Exactly.
Hey, on the subject of what would happen if we didn't do anything, by the way, saw another it's an article on Forbes. So the $2 trillion that we spent in that period of time, just to give you a sense of what $2 trillion is, because that's a big number. That's $300 million a day, every day for the 2 decades. $300 million a day. That's enough money to give $50,000 to every Afghanistani citizen.
And
So,
they say, Social
Chris
Security,
Charles. running for election.
That's right. So when you wonder, like, yeah, why
124.
can we not afford social services in America
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff? Well, that's why. So,
But oh, go ahead.
now that we're not going to spend $300 million a day every day for the next 2 decades, I can't wait to hear the Republican argument as to why we can't take care of our own people anymore.
Yeah, but I can't wait to hear where the money's going. Do you think we're ever going to hear about that?
Oh, where it goes next? Because where's my $2 trillion tax cut?
I know where it's about to go.
Wanna-
I know where it's about to go. It's about to go back into another war. That's where it's going to go.
That's not
How do y'all feel about term limits
How do I feel about term limits?
Medicine right now.
in Congress? And
How do we feel about what? Sorry.
Term limit.
So somebody can't just keep getting reelected forever?
Yeah. It needs,
absolutely.
Oh, Mitch McConnell, goodbye.
I don't think anybody should have a position that you never can get out of unless
I think that would change a lot. It'll fix a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think judges for life is stupid too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, things just change, right? I just don't want somebody 90 years old deciding like law. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, like, it's just fundamentally.
Yeah.
God love them for being 90 years old, but I just can't imagine their viewpoint is going to. The laws they're making now are going to carry on for decades into the future. I just don't see them as having a progressive.
I don't. Speaking to that, like, also, why do we have, like, most people want to retire at some point when, you know, they would rather retire earlier, but yet these people don't want to retire ever.
Oh, why? You know why?
Money.
Right. Exactly.
Paycheck.
It's an easy job.
But we're missing out. I think we're gonna miss our whole generation of it gonna go from them to who? Our kids? Like us. Like, what about us? When do we get a chance? I'm 47. Like, when do we get
this is a great one. Another rabbit hole. I have a question for you, Travis. Did you vote? Did you vote?
Me?
Yeah.
I was on my own yellow brick road.
So you did not. It's okay. Oh, I broke my microphone. So you did not. That's okay. Your friends, did people that you know in your social life?
They voted. And no, I take that back. I did vote.
Okay. All right.
It was so memorable.
So
I did vote.
Why do you think that America is not being run? So the average age of a senator is 62.9 years old. Why is that? What do you want to bet the average age of a voter is? I keep telling my kids this. My kids are all voting age 38. Now, most of them, right? And they're complaining about things. So I teach them how to, know things suck, so that maybe they'll change something someday. Why does the 18 to 30-year-old generation, right? That group, that the laws being passed now are going to affect their future, right? Not even yours and mine, right? It's going to affect them.
Right.
There are more of them than there are of any other individual demographic. If they all banded together and voted, they could change the entire landscape of American politics in 4 years.
You know why?
They don't vote.
I'm Democratic, so I'm just voting for the Democratic. I don't even know anything about them. Just go down the D.
They torn.
I nominate "Go Down the D" as the official phrase of this session.
When I said it, I thought nobody caught it.
Oh, that's it. I'm getting a T-shirt printed.
They torn, but I think it's gonna turn around for them. They in that it's a lot of divided houses, divided parents as far as Republican, Democrat, Independent. Like they torn, and like I got a 19-year-old, and I'm a Republican. I better half Democrat. They listen to me, but they listen to her more out of respect. Mama.
Mamas are smarter.
Mama, you get what I'm saying? So
mamas are smarter. Everybody
so
should
when
listen
I
to their mama
slow
more.
when I slow the conversation down, and I get them to answer one question at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, I say, so who do you agree with? Because I only go off facts. We're not going to answer no questions out of emotion, no questions out of morals. We're only going to go off facts.
Preach. I like this.
And they kind of lean toward me. So just judging off my daughter's, some of her posts about voting and stuff like that, they are becoming independent thinkers.
Yes. We get to talk about boomers now. Everything turns around to boomers. It's so much fun. Okay, so here's the thing: the people that we like to complain about now, the ones that are like voting to just keep everything the way they are and like not, young people, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. It's the boomers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's think about that generation, right? That generation was listening to the Beatles, dropping acid, free love, right? The whole deal, man. We had the potential to have the hippest, coolest bunch of old people right now, right? If they had just held on to the free love ideals of the 60s, could you imagine what this country would be like now? Bernie Sanders would be a conservative.
But
right?
they're the reason. They're the reason.
So what happened?
Okay, so I'm not going to
What happened to all the hippies?
I'm finna help you. I'm finna help you out. I'm not going to ask the ladies. But how old are you, Chris?
I'm 48.
Okay. So that's our parents.
Yeah, my mom was a hippie, but yeah, just before my parents, yeah.
Okay, so now
she had me young.
So they fumble. Most of these politicians that we talk about, Mitch McConnell, is our grandparents voted them in.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been in ever since. So
well, they have to get reelected, and somebody keeps showing up to the polls every 4 years to keep them in. Because we follow
tradition.
I don't know, man. Mitch McConnell's a hell of a tradition.
Listen,
I just don't think people
most voters, and I don't know, you know this, most voters, I think, vote tradition.
Average age of a U.S. voter. So the median age of the entire electorate in the presidential election was between 39 and 45 years old. The median age of voters was between 43 and 46.
In the past, this past election?
Let me restate that again. The median age, that's from the Social Security Administration. I'd have to go and look at the date on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the median age was between 39 and 45 of the electorate. Okay, so the average age of people who could vote, their average age was 39 to 45. The average age of people who actually showed up to vote, 43 to 46.
Chris,
which says that a whole bunch of 18-year-olds didn't vote and a whole bunch of seniors did.
Chris, what age? What's the average age of an independent voter? Like the independent party, like not Republican, not Democrat, but independent. What's the average age?
I don't know. Let's see if it even says anything.
My guess is 30s.
Is that a question? That's a question, right? What I just said.
But I think that's a tricky one, and I'm going to say that because I would classify myself as a true independent, but I'm not registered as an independent, and I rarely vote as an independent because, like everybody else who knows what happens, if I vote for an independent, it is more than likely my vote is wasted.
I hate that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily trust the numbers behind that particular piece, and I don't know.
Well, and what I was going to say to Travis's point is, I know for me, my first vote was definitely like, well, I know that my parents are Republican when we're Christians, so that's the Republican Party is,
Yeah.
I didn't think much about it. It was definitely like,
just walk in and go straight
parents.
Republican or straight Democrat. I was straight Democrat. Then when I became an independent thinker and started thinking for myself, at one point I was voting individual candidates. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I might have had some Democrat, some Republican, some Green Party, some independent.
I did the same thing. And when I started voting more, it changed for me when it was related to policies that impacted me personally. That's when I started
Yes.
going, okay, now wait a minute.
But
I
that's
don't care if you're Republican or Democratic. Let me look at the policies that you are behind, and do they impact me, and do I agree with the direction that you would want to go?
how many 20-year-old in the 20 to 30 year range, or 18 to 30, let's say 18 to 30, how many of those individuals are thinking about anything other than maybe trying to get through college if they're in college, partying, finding a mate, living it up, doing all the things they know they're not going to be able to do once they settle down,
Sounds like the
trying to find
70s.
a job? Like,
The answer is 17.
Listen,
The answer
you
in
can
20.
find
The answer in 2019 is 17%. If you consider the people in that age range who showed up to vote because they were sober enough to do so, that would be 17% of 18 to 30-year-olds. That was of the population that showed up in 2019 to vote. Only 17% were 18 to 30 years old.
Chris, I'm disappointed you didn't jump on that.
Look,
My
would y'all
parents.
agree that the average 7-8-year-old is more politically aware today in 2021
The
than
average who?
ever? 7
The
and
average-
8-year-old.
Oh,
Oh,
7
sure.
year old, like
My
my
kids-
kids.
Yeah, my kids are ready to run for office now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So think about it. When I was 7 or 8, I was just looking for a baseball or something, a rock to throw or something. You know what I mean? So they becoming. It's gonna change. We just may not be able to.
History repeats itself, right? We'll get back to that place. There is I wish you were in our group text earlier, but I pinged an article to our group. Let me make sure I say this correctly, but so we had, and Becky, you made a comment earlier too, right? Like when Trump did not win, and some people thought he did win, right? We had insurgents at the Capitol, right? And now there's an article. Oh, sorry, Chris.
It was a tour. It wasn't an insurgency.
It was a tour. Okay. I'm
tour.
sorry. Okay. Well, tour insurgents means the same thing in this conversation, apparently. But there's an article out today that says white supremacist praise of the Taliban takeover concerns U.S. officials. Mm-hmm. And if you read that article, that it's talking about people ready to get their guns and ready to do their thing. But we hate Biden for going in and taking them out and making a mess of what Trump said. But Trump made the decision, and Bush kept him in, and Clinton kept him in, and other Bush left him in, right? Like, where are we going with all this is what I want to know. Because it seems to me like we are headed towards a really scary path with people who are ready to pick up guns and repeat a level of history where a lot of people died. And yes, we built a great country. I think we all can agree off of something, although a great country in certain respects, and in other respects, it was a piece of shit, right? Because we've done a lot of really bad things in history. But it just seems like we're going somewhere with this, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I will say I'm looking forward to the generation of like your kids.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the generation of like my age and older we tend to follow blindly and like make decisions based on no knowledge whatsoever, but hearsay, my neighbor says this, and oh, I'm with you, buddy. Like, and it's that type of, I think, the people that are having those responses, and it's like, just don't follow blindly. And I feel like the generation today aren't the ones that are following blindly. They're actually doing the knowledge, the research.
Mm-hmm.
God, I hope so.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that. I think we're on a precipice right now, and we may just barely avoid it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're on this edge right now. The number of people that I have, so as a homeschooling family, I've said this before on this show, that because I'm a homeschooling family, there are a lot of people who fall into very conservative circles in my social media world, right? Because homeschool families homeschool for a variety of reasons. A lot of people do because of conservative Christian viewpoints, and so my feeds are full of just full throttle tinfoil hat type stuff, where the Christian community in America feels like they are legitimately being persecuted, that Christianity is being eliminated, and they are adopting almost their own version. It's like a Christian Sharia law that is being pushed. And this belief that America was founded as a Christian nation, and they lift up this flag and think that somehow it's supposed to be the country of Jesus, and it's not. First of all, they don't behave in a way that Jesus would approve of anyways, by and large. But that aside, there's a clear distinction in what our founding fathers intended with regards to religion in the United States. And to say that we must make laws because Jesus, there's a lot of Americans that think that right now. A lot. And the only hope we have, and I'm glad this is being recorded for all time on the internet, is that those people that think that way, the majority of them, hopefully will get old and die before that actually comes to pass.
I'm telling you, the pastor that was doing my service last weekend was probably my age.
That's awful. That's awful. What happened to turn the other cheek? I want him on the show.
Yeah.
God doesn't need us to defend him. He's pretty big. He's got it. He'll be fine.
Amen.
And I'm saying this as a Christian myself. I mean, I struggle with this word in America, right? Because I know who God is in my life. I know who Jesus is in my life. I know where I'd be going if I didn't have faith, and I know where I'm going because I do. And the fundamental reason I walk around on this planet is to live in thanks for what I get when I'm dead, right? My wife has already gone ahead of me, and I live under that faith, but I live by what Jesus said we should do, not by ridiculous interpretations that the Old Testament says we got to hate this group and we got to hate this group. Well, then let's stone our daughters and sell them into slavery and kill people for in 2 stitches of thread, or two types of thread or whatever. It's ridiculous. Ranting.
It's somewhat of a performance in the pulpit sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a performance, kind of like the rapper The Baby the other day said something about HIV patients and the LBTQ
LBG.
whatever. Like when you're getting the amens and you're getting the this, that, and the other, and sometimes preachers can get carried away. You know,
that's a big subject for me because, like you said, preacher, and so one of my biggest things is when we go there, you have preachers and you have teachers, and the Bible says they should be teachers. And I think that's where the problem lies, is that we have too many preachers and not enough teachers.
So that's what I'm asking. Did he get into the preaching mode, or was he in the teaching mode?
He was in the teaching. He started off in the teaching mode. He was talking. I wrote it down. Hold on. I took a note. Surprise, surprise. Katie took a note. One second. It was 2 Kings 22:23. And it was a story about Josiah. And I don't remember the details. I wrote it down because I need to go back and read it myself. But you know, the premise of that story that I walked away from the teaching of my preacher was that Josiah stood up against all evil, and he picked off one by one by one by one. He murdered people, and it was okay because he was doing it in the name of God. That was what I was taught last Sunday. And it was really I had shivers going up my arms. It was just like, what am I sitting in? And it's really unnerving and very relevant to, I think, a lot of the fear that we have as Americans that we were taught back around 9/11 when everything went down, of why, we should be afraid of, and not necessarily afraid of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or ISIS, but it was centered around the Muslim faith. And the more I talk about it, the more I don't want to go back to this church ever again, which is a shame. But not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but in line with this, about a year ago, I'm sitting there for conversions. And they had them standing up one by one as they announced who was converting. And there was a person that stood up and they said that this individual was converting from Muslim to Christianity. And the whole entire congregation stood up and clapped for this person. Not any one of the other individuals that was converting, but the Muslim who was converting. It was like a win. And I didn't go back for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I try to separate things like that from what I'm trying to gain spiritually when I go into my church. But anyway, there's my rabbit hole for the day.
This Second Kings chapter is bananas. Which I really, you got to get this pastor on the show, man, because I would always challenge anybody who goes to the Bible and dials back into the Old Testament, particularly Kings, and says that there is what we should be doing today. Because if God wanted everything to continue operating the way that it was, not to turn this into a Bible study, he wouldn't have sent Jesus. There's a whole second chapter to the second part to this book. That's kind of the point of the whole thing, right? So it's like, when Jesus died, the temple curtain split in two. Nobody's got to sacrifice goats anymore. You can eat pork if you want to. You know what I mean? Like, if Jesus' sacrifice, again, sorry to make this a Bible study, but if Jesus' sacrifice is not complete and I have to do a bunch of other stuff, then why do you have to die? What's the function of it? So I'm not going to go back into the Old Testament and say because King what's-his-face went to like some, oh my gosh, it was he went to a prophet. Hekiah the priest, I'm skipping all these names, went to speak to the prophet Huldah, who was the wife of Shalom, son of Tivak, the son of Haras, keeper of the wardrobe, lived in Jerusalem, and then she said, this is what God said to me. Y'all are cool, but those suckers are going to get killed. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but so the dude, the so-and-so, the guy who was in charge of the wardrobe, his wife said this. And therefore, in 2021, we should go kill people in the name of God.
So whenever y'all have this discussion, I want to be a guest.
Okay.
Yeah. Get that pastor on this show. God does not need us to go kill people.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So how are we going to circle this all back? I kind of really like Travis's theory about chaos.
Yeah. It seems to be a pattern that you see if you really look.
Yeah.
I want to see that pencil again, too. So, like how he held it there for like the whole half of the show.
So here's a point I think I would like to make about this that I think is summarized it. I mean, from my mind, anyways, because at the end of the day, we're responsible, right? We meaning the American people, right? So throughout history, what I see just by reading what has happened is that when the American people do not have a bloodlust appetite for war, then our elected leaders will not pursue war. But when we have a bloodlust for war, whether we think it's righteous or not, but we say we're going to go over and kill those people, maybe for a righteous reason, but whatever, we're going to go do that, then our leaders will act accordingly.
Well, like, when we got George Bush and Dick Cheney in office, and just so happened Dick Cheney owned the company that gained a lot of money from war, right?
Yeah,
we can say when American people are bloodthirsty for war, but if the leaders create the chaos, you know what I mean? Like, if the leader bite us 3 times and turn us into vampires, who's that fault?
Yeah, he was the CEO of Halliburton.
Yep. Yeah.
I have a conflict of interest.
It's that whole thing that a lot of people are saying right now. You're turning a lot of people into sheep, and it's coming at us from different angles.
Oh yeah, many different angles.
So
If you don't care about this subject, we'll give you another subject. Just wait 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Can I ask you all a question? How do each of you all actually feel inside, like your person? How do each one of you guys feel today in 2021? Like your mental state, like your stress state, like how much is this affecting you? Like to this country right now, everything that's going on, like how is it affecting you as a person?
Go in my YouTube history and look at how many times I've researched what's it like to live in Iceland. That will answer that question.
It's hard for me because I'm somewhat of an empath, so I feel everything. So it's really difficult, and because I am a really big like I'm really big with, I don't argue, I don't like to fight, just we can talk, or if you can't talk, then I won't talk, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it just makes me afraid because there's so many people that like Chris said, that just are blood hungry. They just want to fight about something instead of just realizing that anger causes, you use more energy in anger than you do in peace. And yet we somehow want to expend all that energy.
Right. Like somehow blowing up people in another country is going to make us feel better.
Yes.
So think about us as like cavemen, right? What did we do? We killed things, right?
Yeah.
We killed animals, we killed people, whatever. Like it was primal. If we can all agree on that, right? Would it be an accurate thought assumption? I'll ask your questions on this, and for another show, not to get into it today, but are we evolving as a human race to understand that there's more to being human than being bloodthirsty, and we're fighting against those that are still stuck in that world of this is what we've been bred to do?
Katie, you're like tapping into the philosopher major over here.
Yes.
That was my major. As you're talking, I'm like, Plato's The Cave. Have you read that?
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet it's a lot of Americans suffering from PTSD.
But in the state of
Texas, regular Americans,
you'll get your marijuana now if you suffer from PTSD.
Say again?
Just a heads up.
And carry a gun while doing it.
Yeah. In Texas, you can now get your marijuana for PTSD.
Yeah, like right now with the COVID, with this Afghanistan, with the way the world is right now, it's like it's just stressful waking up because you don't know how the next 5 minutes is going to be.
Yep.
From employment to weather to
your kids,
tariffs to school. They had a school shooting today, I think, somewhere.
They did, yeah.
Like, we just don't know. And our leaders supposed to know that. We are. And they not even coming telling us everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, are you about to tell us that our leaders should be leading us and leading us to a place of peace? It's a novel idea.
Like what you're saying, Travis, reminds me of this video that Chris shared with us. And it was this guy, and he was talking about how him and his grandpa were discussing how the time it was like this. It was during, what was it, World War II, Chris? The video? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what video I was saying.
It was Vietnam or whatever. It was a war, basically. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is that they're sitting here and they just feel like they're so divided, and they go on this trip, and then his dad's car breaks down, and they're in this small town, and they fix it. They don't charge him any money, and then they're like, and his dad was like, I'm certain it was dad or grandpa, whatever. He was like, I'm certain that this is gonna come around. Like, I don't have money, and they just did all this stuff for me. Like, they gave me a ride and home, and they fixed my car and all this stuff. And then they're getting ready to leave, and the guy's like, hey, where are you going? And he said, there was like a pit in the bottom of his stomach. Like, here it is. Here's where I learned how much I owe for everything that they've done. And they said, you can't leave without having supper. And so they all sat around the table and they talked, and like when they were driving away, his dad or his grandpa, I can't remember which one it was like, the moral of the story is like, you're going to see all this stuff that makes us look so divided and that we're fighting with each other. And he was like, but you always remember that is who we are. So if more and more of us continue to have conversations like this, and your question is, how are you dealing with all of this? I spent like a year and a half trying to kick this show off the ground, like
That's awesome.
trying to get it going. But it was, I was like, how do I get to where we can have Christmas dinner and half of the family who's Democratic and half of the family who's Republican can just have conversations? Either one, like it doesn't even have to come back to politics because we all talk to each other regularly anyways, and there's no need for that to be the time to bring that up. Or if it does, like, how can you have a conversation without it just being meme wars or like attacking each other?
I've said
Yeah.
it before. Like so the biggest thing is, I feel like, I was telling this to my wife the other day, I feel like a lot of times I run into, 18, 19, 20, and I'm like, okay, I call them millennials, which is legit. But at the same time, like, I feel like I get a sense of, they just weren't taught that everyone is entitled to their own opinion. You don't need to debate to pull them to your side. Just hear their opinion and agree to disagree, or to say, yeah, I learned something today, and walk away. And I feel like today there's too much debating, trying to pull everybody to one side.
Social media.
We can't sit around the table,
Facebook asks you what's on your mind. It don't ask me. It asks me what's on my mind. It didn't ask me to ask you what's on your mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the algorithm only shows you what you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You end up thinking, if you only pay attention to that world, that everything in the world must be aligned to you, because everything you see is.
I see a lot of stuff I don't want to see on Facebook. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. Well, back to what I was saying. I was listening to Biden the other day, and I guess he was responding to the backlash about the withdrawal. And he broke down like how many Americans was over there, and they started how many weeks they started asking them to leave, and this, that, and the other. And he sounded so aggressive. And I was like, no, you need to tone it down a little bit, because it's a lot of Americans scared that it might be another 9/11.
Yeah.
So you, as a leader, you tone it down and tell me it's gonna be okay. We got it under control. We know it looked like this. I'm dealing with it. There's a lot of stuff I can't tell you. Like, sometimes he talks too aggressive. Like, and it come off as, I done did this, I done did that. You know how you go on your job and you gotta reprimand a coworker or employee, and they did something wrong, and they just get on the floor and tell you what they did do, but not discuss what they didn't do. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I say it's a lot of people, man, they're suffering from PTSD, just regular citizens, that, it within the next 2 years, 3 years, we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff, I think, that's going to be sad if something don't change.
I'm just going to keep walking my golden brick road. I'm going to be a big brother. I've already told this to my wife. She was, when the storm in the White House happened, she was like, I'm scared. Everybody's going out. Like, you can't buy a gun. Nobody has them. Nobody has ammunition. I was like, just stay in your house. Keep to yourself. Don't start bitching on social media about anything. Just keep to yourself. You'll be fine. Nobody will even know you're here. They'll be like, where did that come from?
That's what I say. What you buying a gun? Who you buying the gun for?
Yeah,
like,
I'm not. Yeah.
Who are you buying the gun for? Like, you think they coming to your house?
Right. I'm not special enough.
Right.
If you listen to Tucker Carlson, yeah, they're coming to your house.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife always says, "Oh, the government."
Yeah.
I'm like, good. I'm not saying anything. I'm good.
Yeah. It's just, I think we need to have more conversations, and we need to do some training on how to have a conversation.
Yeah. I think I
people,
really like this group, and I really want to, send it out to everybody I know, because when I got invited, I was super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is much a necessity, I think, these days.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know how to have a conversation.
Yep.
Like, we need seminars and training on, how to, be respectful and like you say, respect other people's opinion and to be open-minded. It takes that first before we start having conversation.
Yeah, and they teach classes on, you have classes that are communication classes and speech classes, but it's basically on how to give a speech, how to debate, and not how to listen.
How do you know when somebody won? How do you score on a debate? Like, how do you judge who wins the debate?
I don't know. I get too frustrated and I leave before. Yeah.
Chris, you got all the answers.
What's the question?
Wait, I can take this one. I was in theater and debate.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it's just things like the argument. No, I forgot. I don't know. It's too long ago. I know it's like you can there's parts of an argument, so you have to have all of the parts, and then you have to have rebuttals and
structure. Okay,
it's very structured. Yeah,
interesting.
like Olympics, where you've got points.
I would argue that the majority of Americans who are engaged right now in political discussion they have no business talking about probably did not take debate in college.
Yeah.
Just going to go out there and say that's probably the case. I think there's a lot of people who don't know anything and they're running their mouths anyways because they saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, running their mouths, but they should be in discussion about it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, admittedly, I think all of us have bits and pieces of information that we're fed and we assess and analyze to the best of our abilities, right? Some of us have more bits of information in this bucket than this bucket, but we have to have the conversations. We need to learn how to tone ourselves down, I think, and listen and not be so critical and judgmental of things that don't necessarily fit into our buckets the way that we like them to. But we all need to be talking about it. If we don't all talk about it, we're just going to keep in our own little silos.
Yep.
It's just going to get worse.
Yeah, everybody want to dictate the. We got the same destination. We just want to dictate the way we get there.
The route.
The route.
Yeah.
Like we all got the same common destination. But each individual want to dictate what route. You know what I mean? Like, and if I want to go up 77 North, then let me go. As long as I'm safe. You get what I'm saying? As long as I'm safe. If you want to go 95 North, go ahead. But we get stuck right here at the truck stop arguing over what highway is the best highway. When both highways are leaders there. You get it?
Yeah. But mine's a minute faster, right?
Yeah, but I might burn less gas.
Yeah, you're right. Right. That's the argument. Yep.
So I think we all, not all, but the majority of us have the same destination. Because most times you get into a debate and you're really like, man, we saying the same thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Our last show, we were talking about the vaccine. And every single one of us, although I think all of us on the last show were in support of getting vaccinated, every single person was pro-choice on whether people should be able to decide that for themselves or not. It should be mandated by the government or by anybody else. And it was that moment where everybody raised their hands struck me as like, oh, that's a common ground moment right there. That even though you would look at that group of people and think, oh yeah, for sure, they're all about loading up the trucks and just go stabbing people in the middle of the night. That in reality, no, everybody. Of course, we all want choice, right? Of course, we all want that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well,
All right,
so do we know anything now? Or we still don't know anything?
We know something. We found common ground.
Good.
Okay.
Leaders.
I'm gonna get my tinfoil hat now. You got me, Travis, selling me on all these.
Yeah. This is where Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I
Becky.
just wanted to take you to the moon. That's all.
That's right. We learned that this all has to do with the moon. At the end of the day, it's all about the race to the moon.
And a pencil. One pencil.
Yeah.
That's
One number
right.
2.
Common ground. Oh God.
Oh my gosh.
All the chaos. Who causes it?
Yeah.
Wait.
So we
Chaos.
found common ground in that leaders need to take accountability, or true leaders do take accountability for their actions, right? True leaders make their population or those that they lead feel safe, right? People need to talk more and fight less.
Yep.
And extremism might not be a good thing.
Yep.
And your pastor needs to come on the show. It's big time.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this: you can look at an ant pile, right? An ant pile, and I'm gonna let y'all go because I know I can talk. Think about an ant pile, right? An ant pile is inside this world, but it has a whole world inside it. So, what if all the people who wanted to live in peace and love and unity created our own ant pile under the government? Because you have to be under the government. It's just the law of the land, but we created our own ant pile and lived together. And everything else on the outside, y'all just deal with that. You know what I mean? If you want to be a racist, if you want to be in a certain religion or whatever, and you want to kill people for this, okay, but we're gonna live in this ant pile right here. Don't bring that in here.
You know what's confusing is look at what's happening right now. So I'm from Louisiana. I evacuated here because of Hurricane Ida. And it's in those moments that you see, even if all these people that would normally fight for one way or the other, are now like, what do you need, neighbor? And it's like, why do we need disaster to bring us together?
Because that's what
chaos
of what humanity is.
But it's like,
it's
hey,
a shame.
when do you freaking learn? Come on, people. You only
Somebody
need to
put a hole in our ant pile.
Was that?
Somebody put a hole in our ant pile.
Yeah, but it's like we want to teach kids, oh, you should only learn it after one time, but like we as adults don't learn it after how many times? That's where, like, come on, understand that, yes, this is humanity. They put it on TV. They show how great we are. Texas is coming to help. Tennessee's coming to help. Yeah, everybody's helping. Like, oh my gosh, look at humanity. But then, in about a month or two, when
it won't even take a month.
Yeah, like when everything's back to normal, power's back on, it's like forgotten and
like a funeral.
You
know what I mean? Like everybody come and you good, but then 2 weeks later, when it get nice and quiet, that's when you need help. You know what I mean?
Humanity injections and not vaccines. Like, somebody just every day just take your IV of humanity so you can remember it.
That may be the legalized weed movement.
There you go. Like, legit.
But that's the only thing that we know.
Making alcohol illegal and making weed legal. I'm okay with that.
Not to go too far into a rabbit hole, there was some sort of agreement made in order to push this legalized marijuana for two new purposes in the state of Texas, while at the same time restricting abortions. That those are two different parties.
You give, I get.
And there was a little bit of give and take, right? Which means that while we think Republican and Democrat, really, they're all working together.
Oh, absolutely.
Did they legalize it in Texas?
For not fully, it's for medicinal purposes for cancer and PTSD. You cannot tell me that not every single person in the United States of America doesn't have PTSD right now.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. I heard about the abortion, but I heard that 3 or 4 times a day on the radio, but they didn't say anything about marijuana.
101 new law, or 101 or 99. I forget. There are several new laws put into effect. Go out to KPRC. They have a nice consolidated list of them for you.
Crazy.
And which ones do you think get publicized?
Yeah, right.
The ones that make us angry.
Yep. The ones that, stir it up.
Extremism. Ooh, it just all these trends just keep coming
Lucas
back up.
Well, okay, so and I think there's a big summary thing that I wish that people would pull out of this show is to recognize that if you are watching something or reading something, there is a strong likelihood you are being manipulated to lean in one direction or another.
Yep.
Unless it's the show Common Ground.
Yes.
Come on,
Because
Chris.
we don't have sponsors yet. As soon as we get sponsors, it is downhill. But
That's
true.
right now, we have no agenda.
Mhm.
We're like the purest version of NPR.
Yeah.
We should give out tote bags.
If we're ever going to dive into true leadership, I'd like to add a little note. We've gone back to World War II on several of these episodes. I want to learn more about Winston Churchill. I want to talk about him.
He's a crazy dude.
Oh yeah.
I'm putting a pin in that for now, but
Do you know? Have you researched him?
Come on, Chris.
I've read some about it through.
Okay, I'm gonna give one little
I
thing
knew
you
it
should
was
go
coming.
look up. It's very interesting. I'm not gonna give you a lot of detail, but go Google Winston Churchill's chair. That might be enough. It's an evidence of the strain that World War II put on that man.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
What he did to his chair, the chair that he sat in while he was,
Okay.
going through those years.
Yeah.
He's an interesting dude.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, we're at 1:55:53.
That was a good conversation.
That was awesome. Travis, thank you for coming, man. This was fantastic.
Okay, so where did Elliot come from then?
Well, Elliot is my middle name.
Oh,
So and that's what I use on Facebook, my middle name.
gotcha.
And Travis is my first name. So I didn't remember which one I used.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here?
So next time I'll be Elliot because Elliot is a granddaddy. Travis is before granddaddy. So, Elliot is who I am now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll let that lie, Chris. I'm gonna leave that right there. Don't go Googling that.
Not Googling nothing. Not Googling nothing.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining. I think this is the first time we've had second time we've had two guests.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So just let me know, next let me know whenever, if I'm free, I'm willing. I don't know a lot, but I got
every Wednesday, whenever you want to join us. I feel like you've contributed a lot to our shows.
Okay. Well, just, anytime, just let me know. Like I said, I don't know a lot, but I have an opinion.
We all got opinions.
Oh my gosh. That is the national T-shirt of America.
Yes, you're right.
Well, now we know how we're going to monetize this. Right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We're gonna sell the shit out of those shirts.
Go for it.
I don't know much. I got an opinion. I'm on it.
I'm on it.
Okay. That's how we're gonna. All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Next time.
Thanks. We'll see you.